I've always enjoyed surfing the internet and discovering new and interesting things. One day, I came across a website called This Person Does Not Exist. It was a website that generated images of faces of people who never existed using artificial intelligence. I found it fascinating and started clicking on the images, seeing the different faces the site created. Some images were very realistic, others were very strange and warped. I had fun seeing the flaws in the algorithm, like a Chinese woman with a long gray beard or a man with 3 eyes and a crooked nose. Until I saw that image. It was a man in a black hood with a perfect face. It looked so real that I couldn't stop staring at it. There was something so dark about that face that it sent shivers down my spine. I tried clicking on another image to distract myself, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. The next day, I was on my way home with a couple of shopping bags. I was distracted, thinking about what I was going to make for dinner, when someone approached me in the street. It was a man with a black hood, which covered part of his face. I was in shock when I realized that it was the same face on that website. He pointed a gun at me and said, "Hand over everything you've got, or I'll end you." I didn't have time to react. I handed over the bags and wallet, shaking with fear. He took everything and ran away without saying another word. I was paralyzed, not believing what had just happened. When I finally arrived at the apartment after that dramatic robbery, I didn't have time to enjoy the feeling of security, as I was soon greeted by an irritated voice. "Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" It was my next-door neighbor, Frank, a grumpy old man who was always complaining about everything. "You woke up the whole building with that noisy vacuum cleaner." "I'm sorry, but I needed to clean my house," I replied, trying to be polite. "And who sleeps at noon?" "I do," he raged. "I work at night and need to rest during the day. You have no respect for others." "Look, I don't have time to argue with you," I said, opening the door to my apartment. "Now, if you'll excuse me." "No, don't excuse me," he continued to scream. "You will hear what I have to say. You are a terrible neighbor, an egoist, eh?" The neighbor continued to pester me, insisting that I should be more considerate of the other residents of the building. I just wanted to be alone and try to process everything that had happened to me. But he didn't seem to be willing to leave me alone. Finally, enraged, I slammed the door in his face and threw myself on the couch. I had so much to process. The theft, the man in the black hood, that terrifying image on the website. My mind was spinning and I couldn't relax. I couldn't get that man in the black hood out of my head. I was pretty sure he was the same one on the This Person Does Not Exist website image. But how was that possible? Was he a criminal using the site to disguise himself? Was it just pure and very strange coincidence? I was curious and scared at the same time. I wanted to know more about that site and the images it generated. I wanted to know if there were more people like that man. After a long mental battle, I decided to visit the site again. I opened the website and started clicking the refresh button. I saw faces of all types, colors, and ages. Some were pretty, some were ugly, some were normal, some were weird. I did some reverse searches with the images that seemed most real to me, but everything indicated that none of the faces were real. It was all the work of artificial intelligence. Then an image of a woman with a butterfly tattoo on her neck caught my eye. The image was very clear, without any errors. The woman had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a friendly smile. She seemed like a normal, nice person, but I knew she didn't exist. I felt discomfort and closed the site. I couldn't take it anymore. At dusk, I left the apartment to take out my rubbish. I was on the sidewalk when I heard a female voice screaming for me, asking for help. I turned around and saw a woman with a butterfly tattoo on her neck. It was the same face as the image on the website. She was lying on the floor, bleeding and crying. "Please help me," she begged. I was panicked. This couldn't be real. It was a trap. Was her. I ran into the apartment, leaving the trash behind, as she screamed that I was a heartless idiot. The next day, I turned on the TV and saw a report about that woman. She had been arrested for robbing and killing several people on the street. She would lure victims screaming for help and then stab them. She had been wanted by the police for months. I was relieved to have escaped her, but I was also very scared. How was all this possible? This couldn't be a coincidence. This time I was sure. That person actually existed. I decided to get out, go anywhere. Fresh air would be nice. I never wanted to go online again. I never wanted to see those faces again after that. But my promise didn't last long. My phone vibrated and I unlocked the screen, only to be faced with an image of me staring at me with an expression of horror. I didn't know what was scarier, the fact that I hadn't accessed that this person does not exist website on my cell phone and not knowing how it mysteriously appeared on my screen, or the fact that my face was there. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Analyzing that image more closely, I noticed more details in the image. The navy blue collar of the outfit was the same one I was wearing, and the matte yellow background was very similar to the colors of the walls in the apartment. It was actually the apartment. I froze, staring blankly at the screen. A loud "Hey, idiot," brought me out of a stupor. I turned towards the source of the sound and saw Frank, the grumpy neighbor. He was holding a ripped garbage bag in his hand and pointing towards the apartment door. "Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" he screamed. "You left your garbage at the entrance and the dogs tore the bag and scattered everything. Look at the mess you made. You are a pig, irresponsible, useless. Shut up." I shouted back, "You don't know anything. You don't know what I'm going through. Leave me alone," I say, trying to get into my apartment. "The hell, I'll leave you alone," he says, holding my door. "You're going to clean up this mess right now. Do you have no respect for other? Do you have shit in your head instead of a brain?" I feel anger rise in my chest. I can't stand hearing his voice anymore. I can't bear to look at his face anymore. I can't stand anything anymore. "Shut up," I scream, pushing him hard. He loses his balance and falls to the ground. I hear a dull thud as his head hits the hard floor. He stands motionless, eyes closed, mouth open. A red puddle begins to form under his head, growing and growing rapidly in a continuous stream. I was paralyzed, not believing what I just did.